Hi, my name is Jordan McCracken, and for my semester project, I would like to present a portrait of Julia Morgan. Julia Morgan was born in 1872 in California to a failed mining engineer and an heiress. When she was 6, her mother moved the family to New York to be near Julia's supporting grandfather while her father tried to restart his mining businesses. There, Morgan met her cousin's architect husband and kept in contact with him as she grew up. He taught her several things about architecture. With her grandfather's death, she had no short supply of strong female role models like her grandmother and her mother. This combination of architect knowledge and strong female role models resulted in a deep love for architecture and the tenacity to pursue this dream. In 1890, Morgan began a bachelor's degree in engineering at the University of California, Berkeley. Despite usually being the only woman in her math and science classes, she graduated in 1894 as the first woman with a degree in civil engineering at Berkeley with honors. In her senior year, Morgan met her architect mentor, Bernard Maybeck. He was an arts and crafts architect with projects in San Francisco. She worked under Maybeck for a year to gain experience, then in 1896 she traveled to Paris to study at the prestigious École nationale supérieure des beaux-arts, which opened to female applicants in 1897. In 1898, her entrance exam was altered by examiners so that she could not get in because her gender was an obstacle to them. After a year of studying under French preservation architect François Benjamin Jalmiche, Morgan was finally accepted, with a prohibition of studying past her 30th birthday, as the school disallowed older scholars of any gender. In 1902, she submitted a palatial theater design, earning her an architecture certificate, making her the first woman to receive one from the school, earning it in 3 years instead of the standard 5. However, Morgan stayed in Paris long enough to collaborate with her mentor Jalmiche on a grand salon for a socialized residence before returning back to California. Morgan returned to California after this project and soon took employment with San Franciscan architect John Galen Howard in 1902. There she assisted in the design of the Hearst Memorial Mining Building, built 1902 to 07, the Sather Gate at UC Berkeley, built 1910, and the Hearst Greek Theater, built 1903 to 04. Morgan left this job, however, after overhearing Howard admit he was paying her less for being a woman. For the next 25 years, he tried to blackball her from any Berkeley design opportunities. However, she didn't need them. In 1904, Morgan was the first woman to obtain an architecture license in California. She opened her own office in downtown San Francisco, which burned down in 1906 in the earthquake. In 1907, she opened her office in the Merchants Exchange building with another draftsman. In 1910, she was able to reestablish a private practice where she stayed for the rest of her career. In 1904, Morgan completed her first reinforced concrete structure, a technique which was unheard of at the time but taught to her in Paris, the Bell Tower at Mills College, named El Campanile. It was the first reinforced concrete structure on the West Coast. The stability of the material left the structure unscathed in the infamous 1906 earthquake. This launched her career and brought her national acclaim as an engineer, designer, and architect. In total, she designed 6 buildings for Mills College. In 1905, Morgan's first large-scale residential project was commissioned for mining superintendent Arthur De Wint Foote and wife, author, and illustrator Mary Halleck Foote. It was a site-sensitive arts and crafts style. It featured natural materials like local waste rock, peeled logs as exposed beams, and redwood exterior shingles. The design featured strong horizontal lines and earth-toned colors. This project is currently on the National Historic Registry awaiting preservation. In 1910, the St. John's Presbyterian Church and Sunday School commissioned Morgan. She designed a craftsman with exterior wood shingles, broad gables, and a smoked glass clerestory. On the interior, it features a redwood paneled interior, exposed wooden beams and trusses, and a slanted floor. This project is also currently on the National Historic Registry but listed as the Julia Morgan Theater. In 1910, philanthropist, feminist, and daughter of the Hearst mining millionaire, Phoebe Hearst, took an interest in Morgan's work after the Fairmont Hotel reconstruction and used her for several future construction projects, starting with the Hacienda del Pozo de Verona. It combines Mission, Pueblo, and Moorish architecture. By 1913, Morgan had already completed the Oakland YWCA, so they commissioned her to do the Asilomar building. She finished it in 1928 with 16 total buildings. It is currently on the National Historic Registry with 11 of her original buildings present as the Asilomar State Beach and Conference Grounds. In total, Morgan designed at least 10 YWCA centers. In 1928, the Chapel of the Chimes hired Morgan to redevelop and add onto their original building. The design was Spanish Gothic with some Moorish motifs. It features ornate stonework, statues, gardens, fountains, and mosaics. Today, it still serves as a chapel and crematorium with her work. In 1919, the son of Phoebe Hearst commissioned Morgan after Phoebe's death. William Randolph Hearst retained her to design his country home. The design continued for decades because of Hearst's very unique requests, like a zoo, an ancient sarcophagus, choir stalls from a monastery, Arabic lanterns, a pool table which was unheard of at the time, and a huge indoor pool. Morgan used this opportunity to design some of the objects herself, like the tiles. It was during this time that Hearst and Morgan became the best of friends. Construction stopped in 1939 due to Hearst's financial ruin after the stock market crashed in 1929. Construction was finally able to resume in 1945, but it ended in 1947 when Hearst left the castle due to ill health. The castle was finally completed in the 1980s and is now the product that we see on the National Historic Registry today. It still has some of the original features of Morgan's work. In 1929, Morgan was awarded UC Berkeley's honorary Doctor of Laws degree, its highest honor. In 1930, Hearst commissioned Morgan again to reconstruct the fire-stricken Milpitas ranch house into temporary housing for his employees and guests. It was a Spanish mission revival style that featured poured concrete. It is currently on the National Historic Registry and operated and owned by the U.S. Army as a public hotel on a military base. In 1904, Phoebe Hearst commissioned Bernard Maybeck to build a vacation home named Wintoon after the Native American tribe Wintoon, who had this land taken from them in the early 1800s. Maybeck then hired his favorite student Morgan to assist. They finished the project that year. It was a site-specific German Gothic style with a central stone tower, blue-gray volcanic stone walls, stained glass windows, and a stone roof. On the interior, it featured a carved stone spiral staircase, glazed Paris green tile, now known as a highly toxic material, steep wooden beams, a fireplace, tapestries, and stone floors. Unfortunately, part of it burned down in 1930, allowing William Hearst to buy it from his cousin after she inherited it from Phoebe. Hearst hired Morgan to demolish what was standing and create a new design, but no demolition started due to Hearst's financial incapabilities after the stock market crash. Instead, Morgan designed a quote Bavarian village with multiple half-timbered buildings in the Beaux Arts style with German Gothic decorations. It was completed 1933. Hearst had sent Morgan and her close artist friend Doris Day to Europe to study such styles. In 1934, Hearst bought the neighboring ranch, and starting 1935, Morgan redesigned it all into the Gothic Revival style. The attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 shut off power in California due to its likeliness to be bombed by the Japanese, so Hearst left and construction stopped. Today, the estate is still owned by the Hearst Corporation. In 1950, Hearst died of a heart attack. Morgan decided to retire in 1951, devastated after losing her best friend. She closed her office and asked her colleague to burn her blueprints. In the totality of her career, Morgan had over 700 designs. There was the Fairmont Hotel reconstruction in 1907, the Methodist Chinese Mission in 1910, the King's Daughters Home for Incurables in 1912, the Los Angeles Examiner Building in 1914, and the Berkeley Women's City Club in 1930. As you'll notice, Morgan designed a lot of buildings for female-led organizations. She did this because she wanted to participate in creating opportunities for women. She herself was a feminist. Morgan had a reputation as a client's architect because she had a knack for interpreting clients' needs and their style. Due to this, she never really had just one architectural style. She was influenced by her mentor Maybeck to make her designs site-specific, with the belief that structures should seem to grow from the site. She also rebelled against industrialism, as was typical of the time period and of people who preferred arts and crafts. Over her entire career, she dabbled in classical, Spanish, half-tempered English, arts and crafts, and Chinese styles. Morgan had a very successful career, but she always refused press interviews due to her partial facial paralysis from a botched inner ear surgery to treat constant ear infections from a childhood bout of scarlet fever. She never married, but had a huge network of female artist friends. During her time in Paris, some of these friends introduced her to feminism. This combination has led several historians and artists to believe she was a closeted lesbian. She lived modestly despite being rich. Working on a budget well is part of why her clients loved her. She was known to a lot of people as Aunt Julia for her helping hand, deep charitable wallet, and being a godmother for all her siblings and friends' kids. Her brother worked for her as her driver before his and her brother's death. Her family was very close to each other, so this devastated them. This caused Morgan to build her ill mother an exact replica of her childhood home next to her sister so that they could take care of her mother together. However, tragedy continued to befall her. At the age of 81, she was mugged and hospitalized. This led to small strokes, which left her bedridden until her death in 1957. Her career did not stop after her retirement. Several of her buildings are still intact and preserved as historic sites. Several artists used her story as inspiration for many books and plays. In 2008, Governor Schwarzenegger inducted her into the California Hall of Fame. Also, in 2014, she received the posthumous AIA Gold Medal, the highest honor from American Institute of Architects, and was the first female to receive the honor. What I want you to remember about her is that Julia Morgan's architectural style was to create handcrafted buildings meant to last forever. As she wisely said, "My buildings will be my legacy." Thank you for listening.